Welcome to the Life Foundations program. My name is Dr. Meredith Astrup. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor. So we're going to be going on a journey together, and I am so happy that you're here. I'm so happy that you said yes to this program. That means that you're in a place to radically transform your health and your life. And that's some hard work. So for that, I see you, and I thank you for showing up and for doing this work for you and yourself. So diving into the program, I want to start with a roadmap and kind of a bird's eye view of where we're going over the next 3 months. So month one is really laying the foundations for our healthy habits in our life. So we'll be doing a deep dive into nutrition, into sleep hygiene, into our morning and evening routines, as well as exercise, movement, and then diving into a bit of science of nature, spending time in nature. So month two is all about our relationship to ourself. So we'll be doing work with parts therapy, doing work with nervous system regulation, mindfulness, and learning some techniques to regulate our emotions and nervous system, as well as diving into joy and how we can cultivate more of it in our life. And then month three is all about our relationships to others, our community, how we're setting boundaries, as well as diving into our life's purpose. So that is what we'll be getting into month three. So this video will be doing our nutrition overview. We'll be going into macronutrients as well as foods to eliminate limit and food swaps. So before we dive into nutrition, I really want to lay the groundwork of a concept called epigenetics. This is what really shows us how our lifestyle is affecting our DNA expression, and it's either cultivating health or disease. So epigenetics are modifications that get added on top of our DNA and determine whether a gene will be expressed or not. So everything that we do, from the food we eat to how we move our body, the toxins we're exposed to, even our own self-talk in our mind, sends signals to our DNA to either to promote health or disease, right? So this is really the power of epigenetics. And the old paradigm was that we're doomed to the fate of our genes, right? We're giving this a lot and there's nothing that we can do about it. But epigenetics is showing us that that's actually the furthest from the truth, in that we have, we're putting the fate back into our own hands for our own health. And it really shows this intrinsic connection to our lifestyle and our genetic expression. So that's why all of these changes are so important, and they do make a huge impact in our health and our life. So with that foundation, let's dive into food, right? So everything that we put into our body gets broken down and becomes the building blocks of who you are. So you literally are what you eat, and this foundation is extremely important. So first, we'll be diving into fiber. So fiber is the parts of the food that doesn't get broken down. So if you think of like the stringy part of celery, this is fiber. Fiber is highest in whole foods such as vegetables, fruit, and whole grains. And fiber helps to bulk up our stool to normalize bowel movements. And it also acts as a scrubber brush for our intestines to keep them healthy. And it also will hold on to cholesterol and sugar and not allow them to be absorbed. So it's a big regulator of cholesterol, blood sugar, keeping those levels healthy. So how much sugar should we, or how much fiber should we be aiming for daily? I have that listed out in the booklet, so take a look at that. It can actually be challenging to get enough fiber throughout the day. So for example, an avocado or half an avocado has about 5 grams of fiber. One slice of whole grain bread has about 3 grams of fiber. So it takes quite a bit of whole foods to meet the fiber requirements, right? And fiber is also really good for our good gut bacteria. So the good guys in our gut feed on fiber, the bad guys feed on simple sugars. So as we're eating fiber, we're feeding our good gut bacteria, which help to make vitamins for us. They regulate our immune system. They can really boost and help our mood and mental health. So it's important that we're feeding our good gut bacteria properly, right? And there's a lot of new research that's showing how intimately our gut health is tied to our mental health. So really feeding our good gut bacteria is benefiting our mood as well. Our Western diet has done a pretty good job of taking the fiber out of everything, right? So we have orange juice and white bread and processed food that are all stripped of fiber. So that's why it's important to eat the whole non-processed foods, right? And like I mentioned, the bad gut bacteria are feeding on sugar. So simple carbohydrates like pasta, white bread, sweets. Um, this is what our, yeast and bad bacterial species are feeding on. And if we have more of those in our gut, they'll actually send signals to our brain for us to crave more sugar, like a, bacterial mind control. So that's why, if we have a lot of sugar a couple of days in a row, we'll just crave more and more and more of it, right? So some symptoms of having like a dysregulated gut, we can have symptoms like irregular stools, gas, bloating, and indigestion. And if this is you, talk to me about the GI map. This is a stool test that really looks at the composition of our entire gut microbiome, and we can make changes based on that. So some tips for feeding are good gut bacteria, right? So we can have fermented foods like kombucha, kimchi, miso, kefir are all really good for continually re-inoculating our gut with good bacteria, as well as yogurt. We can look for the live and active seal on yogurt to ensure it has probiotics in it. We can also take a quality probiotic ourselves. So we want to look for at least 50 billion CFUs if we're going to do a probiotic. And then lastly, we can increase our omega-3 fatty acids in our diet. So this improves the diversity of our microbiome, and more diversity equals a healthier gut. So things like olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocado, and fatty fish will really help to increase this omega-3 and increase the diversity of our gut microbiome. So kind of an overview of a little bit of gut health and why fiber is so important. So next is water, right? Water is life. 60% of you is made up of water. We really want to aim to drink half our body weight in ounces of water per day. So if you were to weigh 180 pounds, you want to drink 90 ounces of water a day. So water is super important to be flushing out toxins and keeping our system vibrant and healthy. So I have my water bottle that I have with me all the time. It's like my child, to always stay hydrated. Super important. So next is protein. So protein is extremely important for maintaining muscle, and we're trying to build muscle as well. They also get broken down into amino acids, and this provides the building block for many of our neurotransmitters and hormones. So the average person should be consuming about zero point 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of weight per day. Like an athlete will have a little bit more than that, around 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram a day. So let's say, for example, you weigh 180 pounds. You want to divide that by 2.2 to get your weight in kilograms, and then multiply that by 0.8 to get the grams per day of protein that you should have for your body. And the source of our protein is extremely important as well, right? So red meat is high in saturated fats. We're wanting to limit that to 1 to 2 times a week. And then our leaner meat, such as chicken and turkey and fish, are really fantastic options for daily and throughout the week consumption. And then we have plant-based sources of protein like tofu, beans, quinoa, lentils, chickpeas, nut butters. These are also great for daily consumption. And then moving on to carbohydrates, right? So really wanting to limit the simple carbohydrates, like the simple sugars as well. So white bread, white pasta, cereals, pastries, candy, table sugar, fruit juice, and soft drinks. These are often really highly refined and processed foods, and all the fiber is taken out of them. They're primarily just simple sugar is what is left behind. So limiting the simple carbohydrates, limiting added sugar, ideally limiting added sugar to less than 25 grams a day. So want to really make sure to read our food labels. Sugar can hide in some wild places like ketchup or bread. So really reading the food labels and seeing where this added sugar is hiding. Um, and then really wanting to increase our complex carbohydrates. So these are polysaccharides, and they are made up of these long chain sugar molecules, and they take longer for our body to digest them. And it's important for a healthy diet because they provide us with energy, fiber, and vitamins and minerals. So this complex carbohydrates are things like vegetables, legumes, whole grains like buckwheat, brown rice, oats, quinoa, and fruits as well. So there's bird's eye view of carbohydrates, diving into fats and cholesterol. So fat is extremely important to our health. Our brain is almost entirely made up of fat, and our cells are also made up of fat. So it's really important to have the proper fat in the right proportions for cellular health, for our brain health as well. And cholesterol is also really important to our health. It also makes up our cellular membranes, also important for our brain, and it also makes up a lot of our hormones. Specifically, it's important for vitamin D synthesis. So there's a lot of talk about having too high of cholesterol, but also too low of cholesterol is being connected to mood disorders like depression, and we've also seen that statins are actually being shown to have an increased risk for dementia and nutrient deficiencies. So, bird's eye view overview of fat, we're really wanting to eliminate trans fats and really limit the saturated fat in our diet. So, saturated fat is important for our health, but in limited proportions. Um, it provides our bodies with energy and also helps to support our brain health. But too much saturated fat can lead to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease and certain types of cancer. So, limiting that. And then, so saturated fat are high in things like red meat, butter, dairy, and baked goods. So limiting those to, just a couple times a week, a month. And it's the trans fat that we're really wanting to eliminate. It's found in a lot of processed foods, such as shortening, microwave popcorn, and fried fast food. It can be under the name of partially hydrogenated oil. So trans fats are totally man-made, not found in nature. So they're in these processed foods, and they can increase LDL, the bad cholesterol. They decrease HDL, or good cholesterol, and they're a significant contributor to atherosclerosis. So eliminating those in the processed foods. And then what we're wanting to really increase in our diet are the unsaturated fats. So this is omega-3, for example. When we're diving deeper into the Mediterranean diet puts a really big emphasis on these unsaturated fats. So this can look like, so foods highest in unsaturated fat are avocado, nuts, seeds, olives, olive oil, eggs, and fatty fish like salmon. So we can really increase those in our diet. Okay, so a little bit more overview. Things that we're really wanting to just eliminate from our diet completely, things that really are not good for us. First is soda and diet soda. This contains high fructose corn syrup, and diet soda contains aspartame, which actually reduces serotonin, which is our feel-good neurotransmitter. So really wanting to eliminate this from our diet. We can try, a bubbly water, Zevia instead of soda. Also wanting to eliminate energy drinks. These contain an excessive amount of caffeine and sugar, and regular consumption can lead to anxiety, high blood pressure, headaches. So getting this out of our diet, as well as wanting to eliminate high fructose corn syrup. This is in, like I mentioned, soda and a lot of other processed foods and candies. So it can lead to weight gain, sugar cravings, and it's actually immediately converted to fat, and it can be stored in our liver, which can be a significant contributor to fatty liver disease. So really wanting to read our food labels and making sure that there's no high fructose corn syrup in our foods. And next, like we talked about, eliminating the trans fats, and then food dyes as well. So food dyes are like red number 1, green number 3. These have been shown to increase the risk of asthma and ADHD. They're also linked to memory loss, depression, anxiety, and an increased risk of cancer. So eliminating food dyes as well from our diet. So next, things to limit. So caffeine, really wanting to aim for less than 2 servings a day or less of caffeine. So coffee, for example, 1 to 2 servings is cardioprotective, a lot of antioxidants. Higher than that, it can be cardio-detrimental, so increased blood pressure, heart rate, all of that. So really wanting to limit our caffeine to less than 2 servings per day. And then, like we mentioned, wanting to limit those simple carbohydrates, which get turned into sugar in our body, and limiting added sugar to less than 25 grams a day, really reading our food labels with the sugar. And then, like we talked about as well, is really limiting the saturated fat as well. So some food swaps that we can easily make. So first is white bread. So the simple carbohydrate, we can switch to a multi-grain whole grain bread. We can also swap out our peanut butter. Peanuts are just, they're higher in saturated fat. They don't have as much of the micronutrient content as a lot of the other nuts have. And unfortunately, a lot of peanut butter can also be contaminated with mold. So if we are having peanut butter, making sure that it's a really high quality organic brand. But we can switch that out for an almond cashew butter. And like I mentioned with the soda as well, switching that out for bubbly water is something called Poppy, which is a great alternative, or Zevia as well. And if we're having pasta, right, we can switch this out for a veggie pasta. They make bean pasta, they make whole wheat, whole grain pasta. So those are better options. And then we can swap out our table sugar. So table sugar, just the white sugar, we can swap that out for honey, agave syrup, maple syrup. These will actually be complex sugars, which is actually healthier for us and actually better for our gut microbiome. We can swap out desserts and ice cream for yogurt and candy for fruit. And then our processed meats like bacon, sausage, hot dogs, we can swap these out for our leaner meats like fish, turkey, and chicken are good options there. And then swapping out our energy drinks for, a tea or a coffee if we need an energy boost. And then some tips for making diet changes, right? So caffeine and sugar can be really addictive. So we want to plan on a few weeks to slowly wean off of them, right? And giving our body a chance to detox truly. And also wanting to go slow, right? So change takes time. It takes on average 30 days to create a new habit and to create these new neural networks. So we can start with removing one, bad food, for example, and replacing it with a good food per se. That's a really good place to start, doing that for 30 days and then adding on another good habit, right? And next, we can also really get in tune with our bodies, really listen to our hunger and fullness cues. We can notice if a certain food is bothersome to our body, and we can alter our diet accordingly. Um, we can also really practice mindful eating, which I'll share more with you in our next video. And we really want to cultivate sustainable change, right? So it doesn't have to be 100% perfect with our diet. We can try the like 80-20 rule. So 80% of what we're eating is following our guidelines, our healthy guidelines, and 20% can be, maybe some fun foods that are our choice, right? And then lastly, not wanting to keep like junk food in our house, and maybe buying some of these foods and having them in our home can be a really big temptation. So not even having them there can be really helpful. So yeah, that is our introduction with nutrition. We'll be doing an overview of Mediterranean diet and some more things nutrition in the next video. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you soon.